Hello and welcome to Stitched in Sweden episode 111. I'm Maria and you can find me everywhere on the internet as Stitched in Sweden. Today I am going to be going through my 2024 projects that I completed for myself and going through with you kind of talking about each one both as a review for myself to look back on and kind of learn what worked and what didn't so that I can make good decisions going forward, and then also just a fun way to look at what I made this year. For me this year it makes most sense to just go through the items that I made for myself because many of the items that I made for other people are not here with me right now and I don't necessarily have good photographs of them. And this year I was really focused on making things for myself. I did make many things for other people, but I did really have an intention in the beginning of the year to focus on making things for me, sweaters mostly, that would fit well with what I like to wear every day and would be things that I would grab again and again. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go in order from the first things that I finished this year, 2024 that is, and up until December 2024. So in January I had a few things on the needles that were from the previous year, 2023. But I'm still counting them this year because they were finished in 2024. The first is the Cozy Classic Raglan Light, and this is a pattern by Jessie Made Designs, and I knit this using Spun Right Round sock yarn in a very kind of bright neon coral color. More details about my sweaters will be on my Ravelry page. You can find them there if you want to know like exact colors, etc. I would say this sweater I would give a 3 out of 5. I did wear it actually quite a bit before Linnea was born. Worked while I was pregnant. It's very close fitting. So while I was pregnant it emphasized my stomach, which was fine. Afterwards, I haven't reached for it quite as much because I haven't been wearing as tight-fitting clothing after giving birth. Just kind of how it always is for me. But I know that this is probably one that I will reach back for again in the spring. It's a nice bright color and it's a good like fingering weight garment. It makes a nice layer for slightly warmer months like in the spring. The Aspen cardigan is a pattern that I knit also mostly in 2023 but finished it in January. This is a all over cabled cardigan and I believe it's by Michelle Wong. It was definitely published in Brooklyn Tweed and I knit this in Cascade Eco DK, I think. It's their merino yarn. It's an undyed yarn. It was the first time that I had used it. It knit up really nicely. I quite enjoyed working with it. I have not worn this nearly as much as I expected to, and the main problem is because of the shawl collar, and I just don't like it. It's too floppy. It's not like substantial enough, so I think if we'll see what I decide, but if in order to make this wearable I think I would need to go back and take off the shawl collar and maybe knit a double knit button band instead, because I really like how that gives kind of a substantial edge to a cardigan. But I just don't know if that's gonna happen. It was really enjoyable to work on, but I'm not sure that I'm interested in investing more time in that one. So it might be one that I see if I have somebody else in my life who would like to have it. If I wash it again and kind of block it nicely, that might be a possibility. That one I would give a 2 out of 5 because I enjoyed the knit, but I don't wear it. The next sweater that I finished is the crystal sweater, and this is a pattern from Isayer yarns. The original is knit in their yarn Jensen held with their silk mohair, and I knit this in Drops Daisy in their just white natural color, and I held it together with a cashmere merino silk strand that was in a kind of blush pink color. So it gives an overall kind of pinky oatmeal vibe to this one. And I really like this sweater. It has a shallow v-neck. It's not like my everyday go-to because honestly in the winter it's a little bit cold with the eyelets. And I don't have a v-neck undershirt that I could wear under it, so mostly I wear it with a camisole underneath. I think if I did have a v-neck undershirt, I would wear this more. And that's kind of something that I learned this year definitely, is that the sweaters that I had good garments that worked well underneath them, I wore them a lot more. So I think in the near future I will be making a v-neck merino underlayer to wear under this shirt and one of my other finished items. But I'm really happy with this one in terms of the fit. It was a different kind of shape for me and I enjoyed knitting it. It knit up quite quickly because of the gauge, and it has held up well. I think this yarn, the Drops Daisy, doesn't actually hold up that well on its own. It pills quite a bit, but with the cashmere merino silk strand along in with it, it held up well. My next finished item for 2024 was the sweater number 18 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and this is one of my most worn sweaters in 2024. I reach for this one again and again because it's really like a cozy sweatshirt knit, and I knit this also in Drops Daisy in the color Nougat, and I held it together with Isayer soft silk mohair in the color 0. I just really like this sweater. It's quite oversized, and this was one of the first more oversized shapes that I tried out this year, and I'm really happy that I did because I found that it was something I really enjoyed wearing. I like this one. It has a nice shoulder detail. It definitely is a heavy sweater, both in terms of warmth, like it's a very cozy warm sweater that I reach for when it's cold, like really cold outside, but it also is quite weighty physically. I think that the arms have stretched out of place a little bit. Like this seam is definitely, it's a good thing that there's a solid seam back here because it does weigh down otherwise. And I find sometimes that this one tends to ride back a little bit, but I just kind of have to, you know, pull it forward like that, and then it will sit in the right place for a couple hours until I need to do it again. It has a nice double folded neckband, and it has a little bit of pilling, but this again is one that I wear all the time, and I know that the pilling would be a lot worse if I hadn't held it with a mohair, so I'm happy that I did that. But I would say that this is probably my softest sweater that I made this year. For sweater number 18, that one definitely gets a 5-star because I wear it all the time and I really like it. Another 5-star sweater is my Porcelain sweater by Knit, and I think that this is in contention for my favorite sweaters of 2024. This one and one other that I'll show you very close to the end. are my top two for sure. This sweater is knit using Sandnesgarn Tin Pergint and Durirum Natura Bernice, which is the mohair. Tin Pergint is a Norwegian wool. It's fingering weight and it's quite rustic. It's not soft, but it makes for a really warm sweater, and combined with this nice soft mohair, it just makes the coziest sweater that I really enjoy wearing. I did not enjoy knitting the first part of this sweater because it was colorwork knit back and forth for this top panel, but after that section it really flew by and it was a fun project to work on. I really like the colors of this. I feel like it's, even though it's kind of a loud sweater, like the design is quite loud because of the soft color palette, it's understated, and I feel like it's one that I can wear every day. So I wear this all the time, especially when I'm working at the yarn store, and I would knit it again, I think. I think it would be really pretty even in a lower contrast combination, or yeah, like a really high contrast too would be pretty. But I don't know if I will knit it again. It's one that, given the chance, I would knit it again. I don't know if that makes sense. So that's definitely a 5 out of 5. Up next we have the Colette pullover by Sari Nordland, and this one is one that I was really hopeful for. I enjoyed knitting it. I love the yarn combination, but I don't wear it at all. It does not fit. I picked the wrong size. It was difficult to achieve and maintain the gauge, and I just don't wear it because it flares out funny, and I think the reason that it flares is because I had to block it so strongly, like so hard to achieve the gauge. Yeah, it just doesn't work. I think that in order for this to be successful for me, I would need to knit it in a worsted weight yarn, or at least a sport weight plus fingering. Like, I think the gauge is just really challenging. And because I had to block it so hard for the cable sections, the ribbing becomes kind of floaty and sticks out weird, and it just doesn't sit well on me at all. So when I finished this, I was very pregnant and I wasn't really able to try it on and assess it appropriately, but afterwards I thought, oh, it's just because I have like a couple of extra pounds on me right now and it'll get better, but it just hasn't, and I just don't like it. So unfortunately this one is going to go in the frog pond, and I will be repurposing this yarn, which is Durirum Natura Albertine for the fingering weight and Bernice for the mohair. For this one, I am going to try to unravel it as is, meaning that I'm not going to separate the mohair from the fingering weight. I'm just gonna ball it up as one and try to reknit it like that. Because I would really like this to be in my wardrobe, but it's just, it doesn't work as it is, so there's no point in keeping it like that, especially because I love the yarn so much. I think it will be worth it to repurpose it into something else. So I'll give that one a 1. If you're gonna knit that sweater, I would suggest going up, making sure that you have the gauge, which might mean not using a fingering weight yarn, and probably going up a size, at least 1. Then we have my first and only adult sweater design that I finished in 2024, and that is the line cardi. And this pattern is one that I made for adults, and then I mostly wrote the one for children, and I just didn't manage to publish it. It even went through most of test knitting, and then it just kind of fizzled out because I was busy taking care of my newborn. But this one is published, and it's the Lion Cardi from Stitched in Sweden Designs, and it's knit in Sandnesgarn Line, which is a linen, viscose, and cotton blend. It gives it a really nice drape, and I really like the weight of this cardigan. It's definitely one that is the kind of cardigan you can just throw on over a t-shirt. It's a really good summer weight or early fall cardigan. It has a double knit button band, so it gives it that structure, and I think it's really important for this looser, it's not a looser gauge really, but this yarn just has a different drape to it than wool, because it's not wool, it's linen and cotton. And so it's important for the structural integrity of the sweater to have this button band. I think it works really well. I've had a lot of positive feedback about this one in really all size ranges for this sweater, so I think that that one is a win, and I would rate this probably a 3.5 or a 4. It's not my most worn sweater, but I also think maybe that I finished it a little bit later in the year, and I maybe wasn't reaching for it so much when I had a newborn, because it was kind of fresh off the needles then, and I think I didn't want to ruin it like with Spit Up. Like I didn't want it to get stained. So I have the feeling that this year I'll be reaching for this one a lot more, because yeah, I do think it's a really good weight for a summer kind of cardigan. So also in the summer, I finished the Petite Knit French Market bag, and this is my first Petite Knit pattern of the year. I really liked this pattern. I knit it in the recommended yarn, which is the Japansk Bomull, which is held triple, and that's a yarn also from Isager. And I knit this using only 2 balls of the yarn. It calls for 3. You can make it a tiny bit smaller, like very minimally smaller, with just 2 balls, and even though the yarn is held triple throughout, they have a really good tutorial on the Petite Knit website on this pattern page for how to hold the yarn triple from a single ball. And I used that method throughout this project, both because I only had 2 balls, but also because it was a lot nicer of a knitting experience only having to manage 1 ball at a time, because the yarn is a little bit different. Like it has different characteristics than wool, so it's not elastic, and it kind of, I don't know, it's just a little bit more unruly, so it was nice to have only 1 ball at a time. I enjoyed both the knitting process of this one and the finished object a lot, so I am planning on knitting the larger size one, but I'll talk about that in my plans video. So French Market bag gets a 5 out of 5 for me, for sure. Then we get to a not so successful sweater, which I enjoyed the process of, but I never wear this, and I would like to remove it from my life. So I might see if somebody wants it. You can tell me if you want it and I will send it to you. This is the Cozy Classic Raglan, again by Jessie Made, and I made a striped version. I knit this using the same cashmere merino silk blend that I held with my crystal sweater, and I held it together with Sunday from Sandnesgarn, which is their fingering weight, but I dyed the yarn before I used it, and I dyed it using black tea. It was really fun to dye it. I enjoyed that process, but I think I regret dyeing it, because I think I would have preferred to have a white and black striped sweater. This one is just too close to my skin tone or something. Like I just don't like it. I just don't wear it. I thought the subtle stripes would be nice, and they're just not for me. So this one gets a 1 out of 5. And I want to remove it from my closet. Up next we have the honey clutch, and this is my second pattern from Petite Knit this year. This was a really fun little stash buster. I knit this with the remaining yarn from the stripes of the striped Cozy Classic Raglan. This was a good little project that I knit kind of one of the last things when I was, well, I knit a lot of last things when I was waiting for Linnea to be born, but having a small project like this was a good thing to just keep myself busy and working on. And I lined it with a cute little cotton, quilting cotton that has like these little mason jars with wildflowers in them. And this is the first time I think that I installed a zipper into knitwear, and it was good practice because I want to do that again this year. So yeah, this is a good little pouch that works nicely with the French Market bag. I like to put my wallet and chapstick and keys in here when I have my French Market bag, because that bag is open, so things that I don't want to fall out or risk falling out, I put in this little pouch, and that works out super well. It definitely seems like I had a bit of a petite knit moment in the middle of the year, because the next sweater that I finished is the Fortune sweater, also from Petite Knit. And I knit this using Hey Sister Yarn Co. In their Hey Baby color for the merino, and for the mohair I used the Issair silk mohair, which is the softest and my favorite mohair to use. I knit this, I think I pretty much knit it to pattern. I didn't tack down the neck. I think that I wish I had sized up, but I was a little bit nervous that I didn't have enough yarn. So this isn't one that I have worn a ton yet, but I think part of the problem also could be that I don't have a shirt that I like to wear under it. I have a ivory white colored merino turtleneck, but I find that that sticks out a little bit too much out of the top of this turtleneck, so I don't really like that look. I think that I'm gonna make that shirt into a crew neck, and that might work really well under this one. It has a little bit of a balloon sleeve, but it's somewhere kind of in too much in between for me. Like I wish it was just a little bit bigger overall, so that the balloon sleeve was actually a statement instead of just kind of a sleeve that looks like maybe it's a little too big that didn't fit right, kind of. I don't know. I'm not 100% on this one yet, but I'm also not giving up on it because I really like the look of it, and I think that it will be a nice sweater, especially when I have the perfect shirt to wear underneath it. My other merino long sleeves that are crew necks are just the wrong color, because I do have the eyelets in this sweater. The undershirt will show through a bit, and the one that would be most appropriate is a pink color, but it's just not it's kind of like this color pink, and it just wouldn't work underneath it. So I need to work on that one a little bit more, but I'm definitely not giving up on that one. But right now I would put it at about a 2 in terms of how much I wear it. I don't wear it very often at all. As I said, we're definitely in a petite knit moment in the summer here. I knit the Cumulus tee, and I made this one in Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the, I think I used the color cream. And I do believe that I knit this mostly according to pattern. I did struggle with this yarn a little bit in terms of the gauge, especially for the part that's knitted flat. I had a really hard time getting it to not row out, which is not a problem that I usually have. So that was a little bit frustrating, but I think that I ended up going up a needle size for the part that was in the round to more closely match my gauge for the part that was knit flat, and that worked pretty well. I do have one part of this sweater that has a little stitch which only has one strand, like one ply of the yarn that's caught. So I need to go back with some sewing thread, I think, and duplicate stitch over that stitch to try to reinforce that, and so that it's not like a little hole that might, it probably won't make a hole, but I do notice it when I wear it, that there's a little stitch that's not a full stitch there, that I just didn't notice when I was knitting it. Otherwise I would have fixed it directly. But I do like this one. I finished it in July, and we did not have a very warm summer this year, so it didn't get a whole lot of wear. Also because it was one that I was a little bit nervous to stain, since my daughter was at that point only a month old, so there was a lot of spit up and milk. But I'm thinking that this summer, when I tried it on for this video, it felt really comfortable. It felt like a good size, whereas when I tried it on last summer, it still felt a little bit snug on me. But I think it's going to be a really nice garment to wear in the summer, and I can, even though I didn't really enjoy knitting that yarn, I can see myself working with it again because the finished garment is so nice. My last petite knit project of the year is the Sophie shawl. I knit, I think, approximately a size medium. I don't really know. It's about my wingspan, a little bit bigger than my wingspan, just a bit bigger than my wingspan. And I knit this in John Arbin Knit by Numbers DK in the cream white color. Before John Arbin DK was Blue Face Leicester, when it was still 100% merino. I really like the yarn. This is super cozy and soft. It's really nice to have a non-mohair item, especially around my neck. I reach for this quite often. It's held up really well. I knit until I wanted to decrease, and then I decreased. And I think I remember looking and thinking, oh, this is the medium size approximately. But this was just some yarn that I had in my stash, and I didn't use up all of it. I still have some left over, but that wasn't my goal either. I just wanted to use a good amount of it for this Sophie shawl. And yeah, so that one gets a 3 out of 5. I don't know why I only gave that one a 3. I would probably give it a 4. I think because I love my porcelain sweater and one other one so much that I gave those ones 5s, but maybe those ones should have got 6s so that the other ones could still like get 4s and 5s too. I don't know. One that I did give a 4 out of 5 is my Maxim pullover, and this is a pattern from Suzanne Mueller, and I knit this in Fil Colonna Peruvian Highland wool in the color Marzipan, and I think it's called like dark chocolate maybe. The stripes are a really dark brown color that has a little bit of, what is the word? I've had this problem before. Melirad in Swedish. I think it's like, it's a little bit heathered maybe. And this one is one that I was unsure on the sizing. I thought, this might be a little bit too oversized for me, but I reach for this sweater all the time. I really like it. I think this sizing is good. I thought, oh, the sleeves are gonna be too wide. I don't think about the sleeves as being too wide. I added a split hem, which is not in the pattern. Really easy to add that. This yarn holds up quite well. It peels a little bit, but I give it a shave every now and then and it works out. I decided to keep the neck, I think this in the pattern like this too, that the neck is a full sort of turtleneck like that, and then you can tuck it inward if you want, and I usually wear it tucked in. But this is just one that I go to again and again, super comfortable, and can highly recommend it, both the yarn and the pattern. And this yarn is one of the suggested yarns in the pattern. So we have 2 more sweaters this year, and this one is my other 5-star sweater of the year, which is this kind of textured, what I call my textured sweater. I knit this one also in Chin Pergint from Sandnes Garn, held together with Derriere Natura Bernice, which is the same combination that I used for my porcelain sweater that I really love too. This one is using color, I think it's 10-12. It's a super light gray in the Pergint, and then a very much off-white white color for the mohair. I didn't originally know what I was going to do with this gray yarn this year that I had in my stash, but I'm so glad that I knit this, and I'm so happy that my friend Venke sent me a final ball that I needed of the mohair to finish the sweater off, because otherwise it risked becoming an unfinished project that just sat forever. But now it's a sweater that I wear multiple times a week and really love. So this sweater is based on the it's a Sandnes Garn design in terms of the texture pattern of the sweater. I have that sweater number. I think it's maybe number 39 or something like that. It's on my Ravelry page. You can find that there. But I made some modifications to it, mainly that I didn't use the Sandnes Garn pattern at all, except for the charts, because I find their patterns are very difficult to follow. I don't enjoy knitting them, and I was unsure about the sizing, so I went with the porcelain sweater shaping, sizing, numbers, construction to knit this. And I changed it to be a 2x2 rib throughout, and I just love this sweater. I don't know what else I can say about it. It's again just such a go-to. It's held up so well. There's no pilling on this, and I love it. So I definitely can see myself using this yarn combination again. I will say that it is a bit scratchy. Like the Norwegian wool is rustic. It has a rustic feel to it. It's not soft. When you add a soft mohair in with it, it makes it much softer, but it still is not a soft yarn in any way. I wear this always with a long sleeve merino undershirt underneath it, and I don't have any itchiness over my whole body, except sometimes a little bit on the edge of my neck here. It also can, that is exaggerated a little bit more if I get too warm, but otherwise when I wear this in the winter here, it's super nice layer and it's really comfortable. So I think I would knit with it again. Yeah, I just really enjoy those sweaters. Okay, and then last but not least, but maybe a little bit least, is my Paul sweater. And this is a sweater that I finished most recently. I haven't shared it on a regular podcast episode yet. I knit this a lot over the Christmas holiday season, and I made this in Knitting for Olive merino held together with Issair's silk mohair. I wanted to love it. I just don't know if the color works for me. I'm having a hard time deciding how I want to wear it. It has a shallow v-neck in the similar way as the crystal pullover. This pattern is from Mareka Knits. It has a saddle shoulder construction, which I think was a first for me. I really like the look of it. I think that I just don't know how to wear it yet, and I think part of that is because I don't have a good shirt to wear underneath it. If I had a black crew neck shirt, I think I could wear that, but I don't, and I think that ideally I would have a v-neck to wear underneath this that would not show on the sweater. I did modify this one slightly in the sleeves. For the body and the sleeves, you actually are increasing your number of stitches before you do this large section of 1x1 ribbing, And I did do those increases for the body, but when I got to the sleeves, I knew I was very close to running out of mohair and I did not want to buy another ball. So I decided to skip the increases for the sleeves, and I'm really glad I did because I actually knit one sleeve with the increases and then ripped it out. Because to me, like the sleeves, the ribbing part, I like a ribbing that cinches in a little bit, and I was finding that with increasing for the ribbing, it just became too big. So I think even for the body ribbing, I would not increase if I were to knit it again. But I don't know that I will knit it again because I just, I don't know about this sweater. I think it's really pretty, like the back has this nice yoke panel kind of that flows into the sleeve really well with this saddle shoulder construction. But yeah, it's not one that I've reached for yet. I wore it one time. Again, I finished this one really recently, so it also haven't really gotten a fair chance yet, but I think I need to work on what shirt I'm going to wear underneath it before it can have a full fair evaluation of whether or not I like it. That's the end. We got through everything that I knitted for myself. I think I definitely saw a clear color palette emerge this year. I had a lot of creams and like creams leaning pink, definitely some pink thrown in there, and sort of grays and browns. I think for next year / this year, since it's already 2025, I'm going to be inserting a bit more color into my plans and into what I'm knitting. But I did really enjoy this year of knitting, and I'm happy with a lot of the garments that came out of this year. I love that I have so many sweaters in my closet that I reach to every week and wear all the time. So next time, I hope you will join me for my 2025 plans. Even though we are well into January at this point, I am happy to be thinking about what I want to knit this year, especially a lot from my stash. I found that 2024 was a really successful year of knitting for me, and part of the reason I think was because I spent a lot of time thinking about what projects I wanted to make and how they would fit into my wardrobe. So I do want to spend that time at the beginning of the year, this year, kind of going through and thinking about what patterns I can pair with the yarns that I have. My goal this year is to knit through the sweater quantities that I have in my stash. I don't have too many. I mean, it's all relative, isn't it? I don't have too many for my comfort level, but I would like to turn them into sweaters sooner rather than later, because I do think that I would like to get to a point that I'm buying yarn for a project rather than having a ton of yarn in a stash, because my taste does change over time, and some yarns that I was really excited about when I bought them, I'm less excited about now. So I do want to go ahead and knit up those remaining sweater quantities that I have and just turn them into other beautiful wearable pieces that I can enjoy this year and, you know, in years to come. So I think that will be all for this video, and I'll be sharing my plans next time. So thank you again for watching, and happy knitting!